Okay, so today we will be starting with TestNg framework. Fine. What is TestNg? TestNg is used to write your test case. It's basically a framework which is there for white box testing. It's not specifically made for Selenium, but if you want, you can use it with Selenium as well, right? So TestNg as a framework, it is installed as an add-on inside Eclipse, right? We all saw that how to install it in just a few minutes back, right? Once you have installed TestNg, okay, you need to go to help, install new software, and copy this URL out there, use.com/eclipse and install TestNg, right? Once you have installed, you can go to Window, show you others, okay, Window, show you other, and select Java, expand it, and click on TestNg. You will expand Java, you will get TestNg option over there. Okay, so TestNg is something which gets installed as an add-on into Eclipse, and it gets a part, and it actually establishes itself as a part of Eclipse. Fine. If you open any note, like I'll open a notepad and I'll tell you why TestNg is used. Right. When you work with Selenium, hold on. Yeah. When you work with Selenium, this central part out here is there. Then you have got, okay, these are my test cases. Test cases of test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4. Okay. Now these have to be executed one after the another. Fine. And these test cases are made in Selenium. Okay, this is the Selenium code. But apart from that, I have a requirement that my data is kept in some XLS file. I have to read the data from Excel file, right? Along with that, I have this, you can say, I have to generate some reports. Fine. Apart from that, I have to say, work with screenshots. Like I have to save the screenshots of the errors and all everything, right? I need to generate the logs for my testing. That is, logs means whatever happened at what point of time. Suppose the script is running for 10 hours. What happened in the first hour, 10th minute, right? So I need to keep a record. So these are things Selenium will not do. Selenium has got no feature which will help you to read the Excel file, okay, or do the reporting. So all these things have to be done with the help of Java and an inbuilt framework like a JUnit framework or a TestNg framework. Okay, so what these frameworks will do, these frameworks, suppose I'll call that, they will call the test cases in a particular order. Okay, after they will read or write the data from the Excel file, they will generate the logs, they will generate the reports, they will see the screenshots. After reading the data, they will pass on the data to the corresponding script. Fine. So this thing, JUnit or TestNg, it acts like a controller. It's for testing purpose. You can write your Selenium code inside the TestNg class, inside the TestNg Java file, and that Selenium code will actually be responsible for testing. Fine. So let's see first the working of TestNg, and after that we will introduce Selenium inside TestNg, and we'll see how can we work with it. Right. So For seeing that, the first thing which we need to do, so I'll make a new project out here. Called as day 14. So till now we have seen Java, we have seen how to work with Selenium, we did various practical examples, and we saw a lot of websites and all on which we made the script. But we did not write any test case. We simply used Selenium to navigate through the sites, we saw some challenging examples and all, but we never used the conditions that, okay, is my test case passing, is my test case failing or something like that. So that's exactly what I'm going to do in TestNg. So this is a day 14 project. Okay, when you work with TestNg, you need to create a new class. Suppose I'll create the new class as my first test. Okay, and it will be in the package say test cases. What is the package? It's a folder inside the source folder. Okay, inside the test cases package, I have the my first test.java. Now in your TestNg, you don't have any main function. There is no main function. Many people get confused with it. There are annotations in TestNg. Okay. For example, the most important annotation is @test, and you give the function name that is public void, say the test case is login, @test public void login. So what will happen is this will throw an error. Okay, you move your mouse over the error, and you have installed TestNg as an add-on inside Eclipse. You can simply click on add TestNg library over here, and after that you can import the TestNg annotation. Once you have imported it, the error will go. This test is an annotation. This tells us as testers plus this tells TestNg that this is my test case function. This function represents my test case. In this we can write the WebDriver code. In this I can write the WebDriver code. Okay, and I can write, suppose I'll write system.out.println doing the or executing login test, right? So when you run this, you right click on this file, you simply select run as testng test. You actually get this in console out here. Total test runs are 1, failures are 0, and skip tests are 0. Okay, so it gives you a brief report like this. Along with that, it's also printed executed login test out here. This is because of system.out.println. And in the test results section out here, you see that this is the TestNg icon coming up. This is the TestNg tab. If you open it, you will see that in your test cases.my first test, the login test has passed. Right? So this is how you can implement a test case inside the test function. Okay. Now, if I make another file, my second test.java, right? In this, in one file, you can have multiple test annotations. You can write @test public void, say the first test function is I need to log in inside the application. Okay, I am again keeping the login function here, and I'll just write logging in, import testng, right? This testng library is visible out here. It's got nothing but testng.jar. Okay, and I'll write the second test function at the rate test public void say check email. This is my second test function, system.out.println checking email. Fine. The third test function, public void say write email. This is the third test function. Okay, and the last test function would be public void logout. Okay, so these are the series of simple 4 test cases, okay, which you can implement using Selenium inside the testng annotation functions. Right now, if I right click on my second test.java and run it as testng test, okay, you will always get this option to run it as testng test when you right click, okay, because testng has been installed as a plugin inside Eclipse. So when you do this, you will see that it's written out here total test runs are 4, and if you look at the output, then the output is little weird. It's a little jumbled up. It's writing checking email first, then logging in, then logging out, and in the end it is writing email. So the test annotation functions are not called in the order in which I have mentioned them in the file. Okay, rather they are called in the alphabetical order. If you look carefully, then these test functions have been called in the alphabetical order. Apart from this, you will have, I'll tell you, I'll come in 5 minutes and I'll tell you how to correct this order, right? But apart from this, if you go to your project and right click on your project and refresh, you will have a test output folder generated. This is generated by testng. Okay, inside this folder, if you expand this folder, you will have index.html. I'll just open the index.html in a web browser. It will look like this, or I will simply open it in Mozilla. I'll go to the properties of this file, copy the path, open up Mozilla, and go to this test report. So this is the test report. There are 4 methods, 4 have passed. If you click on the show methods, you will get check email, login, logout, write email. So the order is jumbled up, right? The check email function, login, logout, and write email, and this is certain info about it, which all methods were ignored, and reporter output. You know what? Yeah, yes. In times you go, you will get the time which is taken to execute these test cases. Individually, you will get the time which it was taken to execute the test cases. I'll talk about the other parameters soon. Fine. So this is the general report for the default suite. Okay, you can make multiple test suites and run them. Okay, I'll come over to that. Right. So now we have got automatic test reports generated in testng. We have got test results out here as well in this tab. This is for Eclipse. Okay, again in this we can see the order is jumbled up. Right. Now how do I fix this? How do I fix this problem that the login test should be called first, then check email, then write email, and then log out. It should not be that the test should be executed randomly. Okay, if you go to Testng Documentation, just type Testng Documentation, and if you go to the documentation of Testng, then you'll find out here that there's something known as group. Test method, test classes, and test group. Okay, so you can group the test cases, or there is a option for hold on, I want to show it to you in the documentation actually. Or select this depends. Yeah, depends on methods. Okay, you can use this with the annotation. You can use this like this, depends on methods, and you give the method name. For example, out here in your check email test case, I can write that it depends on the method login. Similarly, the write email depends on the method check mail, right? And the logout, it depends on the method write email. That is, until or unless write email is not successfully executed, logout will not happen. Logout test case will not execute. Okay, so there will be a particular order now. The login test is not dependent on any test, so it will be executed first. The check email is dependent on the login function, so it will execute after login and yes. Write email function is dependent on the check email function, so first check email will execute and then write email, and in the end logout. Right now, if you run this as a Testng test, you right click on it, run as Testng test, you will see an output like this. The tests got executed in a particular order: logging in, checking email, writing email, and logging out. If you go to Testng reports out here, then also you will see that the order is maintained, and along with that, if you go to your reports out here, the HTML reports, refresh the reports, you will see that the 4 methods out here are check email, login, logout. Hold on, refresh. The order might not be same in that. Obviously, it will not be the same in which these were executed. Okay, in this report, you will not get that order. Hold on. If you look at the times tab, times link, you'll get that order. But out here in results, it is showing the same order in which the test cases were written inside the what do you say? Inside the Java file. Okay, so the times which were taken to execute various test cases, reporter output, ignore methods, nothing, chronicle view. This is the chronicle view. Okay, and this is the new version of Testng. Okay, the older version of Testng had a little bit different kinds of reporting. Okay, this is the new version. It is having a little bit different kind of reporting. Fine. So everything changes, right? Okay. So basically, I have written this. Now we know that the check email function, it will also depend on the login function. That if in case the login function gets executed successfully, only then check email should be this write email should be executed. Okay, so write email function should be dependent on check email, as well as it should be dependent on the login function, like this. You can keep this option, right? Along with that, the logout function is also dependent on the login function. Until or unless you are not logged in successfully, you cannot log out, right? So if you want to make a test dependent on multiple other test cases, you can use annotations like these, or the attribute depends method. You can use that. Fine. Now what about validations? Okay, what about validations? Suppose I come back to my first test. I have the login test, right? Suppose I have to compare the titles of the page. I have the expected title with me. It is equal to ABC, right? Just taking a hypothetical. The actual title will come up from Selenium. I'll have to write the Selenium code to extract the actual title, but I am hard coding it right now. Suppose that is also ABC. I have to compare both of them. In case both of them match, then I need to report in. I just need to move forward. Otherwise, I need to report it in the reports that the titles, they do not match. Right? For that, we use assertions. Okay, we use assertions in TestNg. So you simply have to write assert. Assert is the inbuilt class through which you can do various validations. Okay, and while doing these validations, you will be able to communicate with the reports. Okay, this class basically in layman terms, it helps you to communicate with the reports. If you write assert dot, you will get lot of options. You will get lot of options, and one of them would be assert equals. Okay, select assert equals and make sure that the assert class is imported from org.testng.assert. Sometimes it comes over from JUnit, because JUnit is also having an assert class, right? So make sure that org.testng.assert is imported, not the JUnit.assert, right? And you have to specify the actual and the expected value. So the actual value is, first you need to specify the actual, okay, actual title, and after that you specify the expected title. That's it. The magic will happen inside the assert equals function. This function will communicate with the reports, and it will write whether the two things, they actually match or not. Fine. Assert is a class in which assert equals is a static function. That's why you are able to call it directly with the class name dot the method. Okay. So when you run this code, right click, run as testng test. You get this on console that everything passes, right? In these results as well, you will see that the login test has passed. But if I change the expected title or the actual title, if I change anything and I run it now, I will see that it's showing me there is one failure. If you look at this report, it will show you a failure that expected was ABCX, but ABC was found. Fine. So you need to work on this. You need to get the expected and the actual things equal in order to in order to pass the test case. Fine. So the basic crux is assert equals is a function which can compare two values and report in reports that something is failing. Alright. If I go to my second test.java, if I go here, right, and suppose in the login test only I fail the test, that is I write assert equals some value actual and expected. So I'm giving a different actual value and a different expected value out here. So the login test is gonna fail. If login test fails, my check email, write email and logout functions should not be executed, because these are dependent on the successful execution of the login test. Okay, these are dependent on the successful execution of the login test. So if you go here, right click on my second test.java, run it as TestNg test, you will see that there were 4 test runs, one failed, that is the login test, and there were 3 skipped test cases. That means the test cases after the login test they skipped out, and the yellow mark out here tells you that these test cases were skipped because they were dependent on the login test, and the login test failed because there was an assertion failure in the login test. I hope you are able to get the overview, right? I am not integrating WebDriver into it right now. This is TestNg. This was never meant for WebDriver. This was meant for simple white box testing. Now, you can use it with WebDriver. You can use it with Selenium. Okay, either with RC or with WebDriver. You can use it with anything inside these test annotations. You just need to write your Selenium code. Fine. We will be doing that. Okay. Now I'll go back to my first test. Okay, I will write over here system.out.println before assertion. Okay, and I will write out here system.out.println after assertion. Okay, before assertion and after assertion I am typing. And if you run the code now, that is my first test.java, you run it as a TestNg test, you will see that in the output, only before assertion is printed. Okay, after assertion is not printed at all. Alright. Now this is a little bit of thing which about which you might have a concern, that fine, if the test case is failing on this line, the test case abruptly ends. Okay, the next line never gets executed. Fine. So this is a problem out here, because suppose I might have a scenario where if something fails, I just need to report it, okay, and I need to move further up with the test case, right? You're getting my point, right? So assertion, when it fails the test case permanently and it stops the flow. How to move further with that flow? Okay, we will be talking about that. We will be talking about that in coming time, right? Just hold on. Okay, just as remember that if the assertion fails, the test case stops. Okay. Similarly, in the my second test, if it fails on this line, none other line up ahead of this line will be executed. Okay. Also, these test functions will not be executed because they are dependent on the login test. Suppose I write in my write email function, I do not make it dependent on any test case. Okay, and if I run this, right click, run as testng test, you will see that the right email is passing in that case. It's got a green sign with it, right? In the test output, you'll have the HTML reports as well. You can see that. Fine. So if it is not dependent on the login test, it will get successfully executed. All right. Now, before I tell you in depth about assertions and all everything, okay, I need to talk about various kinds of annotations inside TestNg. Okay, I have talked about this annotation @test. Okay, what this means? This means that this is a test case. Fine. Now there are other annotations as well. If I right click and I make a new class called my third test. Okay, and in that I have a test called @test public void check say or create lead. Okay, suppose it's an ERP based website, you'll have a test case like create lead. Fine. Now you want that before this execution starts, you might have some prerequisites that maybe you need to connect to database, okay, or maybe you need, before executing this test, maybe you have a situation in which you are reading your data from the Excel file and you want, in the Excel file you have mentioned a flag and all, that which test case to run, which test case not to run. Okay, we can mention that in the Excel file. We can mention all the test cases and we can read the Excel file through Java and we can check whether to execute a particular test case or not. We'll do that in coming days. Fine. Suppose you have written a flag that my third test and create lead should not be executed. Right, that is, this test should not be executed. So what you can do is you have to skip a test on a conditional basis. Okay, on a conditional basis you have to skip a test case, or you might want to open the browser or initialize Selenium before executing this test case. So there are various things which you would want to do before executing this test case, and maybe after executing the test case you might want to close the connection with the database. You might want to close or stop the Selenium. Okay, you might want to raise some flags. I'll talk about this option later on. Okay, so basically there are some prerequisites and post requisites after the test. Okay, for preconditions and post conditions. Fine, that can be handled with the help of one annotation function called as before test public void. You can give any name. You can give any name to this function. I'll just give a name called XYZ. But the annotation is important. Okay, this annotation you have to import it, and inside this I will write system.out.println before executing the test. Okay, before executing the test, right? Right. Okay, so this is the before test and it's executed before executing the test, and if you run this you will see that this will be okay. I'll write over here system.out.println in the test case. Okay, if you run this now, you will get this line in the test case, but before that you will have this line before executing the test. Fine. Similarly, if I have one more test function @test public void check link. Okay, inside this I have written system.out.println checking link. Okay, if I run this, I will get 2 test runs, and before is executed in the very beginning, before executing both the test cases, that is checking link and in the test case. The order in which the test cases out here they get executed is the alphabetical order. Check link gets executed first. Okay, so before test function it will be executed before executing both the test cases. And similarly, there is a function called after test which will be executed. You can give any name to it, and I will write system.out.println after executing. Fine. And you run this now, this will print before executing in the beginning and after executing in the end. So if you have some preconditions like these, connect to DB Excel reading, open the browser, you can do it in before test, and in after test you can do it, do some post conditions. The order is not important. It is not like that the after test function should be written at the end of the file. It is not like that. Alright, so this is the before test, this is after test, and these are the test annotation functions. Fine.